Sukuna at full power finally. Gojo rattled for the first time. Their final battle and more is coming up, so make sure to stay tuned for this crazy chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. Smash that like button if you enjoy seeing the Jujutsu Kaisen videos on the channel and want to keep them coming. Make this the video you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications so you don't miss future Jujutsu Kaisen videos and updates. And now without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. So we start with some hype information. Uraume is apologizing because one of Sukuna's fingers wasn't found. However, getting all the other ones is pretty crazy. We really seem to be at the end game now. Sukuna's not worried though, saying the last one is probably in Gojo's possession. That's his hunch, and I love this part because Gojo only managed to stave off the brat's execution, he says, by proposing it be delayed until after he consumed all of Sukuna's fingers. It's hard for Sukuna to imagine that he would simply be twiddling his thumbs and waiting for the axe to fall. Rather, he imagines that Gojo has long since stashed away one of his fingers, pretty much delaying the execution forever. Love that idea, and it's so Gojo. Meanwhile, though, Sukuna says don't stress it, he can easily make up for one finger's worth of power with this. He'll make up for it with the Shinbutsu Mummy. Now, from the sound of it, it does seem like he'll be full power since the mummy should make up for his missing finger as he says. So we will get full power Sukuna versus Gojo. However, this also leaves a possibility, and in my opinion almost certainty, that he'll get another power boost pushing him to new heights when he gets and consumes the final finger. Imagine Gojo just flexing by giving it to him at the beginning of their fight. That would be hilarious. But since the finger has been mentioned, I feel, as with Chekhov's gun, it will come into play. It's only a matter of time. We then jump to Kenjaku, who brings up that a total of 61 players have died by curse technique removal because they never entered a colony. He wonders if it was the thought of dying or killing that frightened them, while in the end, lack of intuition was blamed. We seem to get some social commentary as it said, the people of this country have convinced themselves that they have no control over their own reality, even when their lives are teetering on the brink. Not everyone has the courage to put their own life on the line, Kenjaku says, but if their hand is forced by someone else, they have no choice but to take action. He says it always begins with one step. Only then can you make progress towards your own ideals. And he says he holds nothing but contempt for those who are unwilling to take that first step. After all, when there's no hope left, death is always an option, and he says he's talking to Tengen. It's interesting hearing Kenjaku's musings, and I guess that's what we look for in good villains. Strong characters with interesting things to say. Then we jump to Gojo, who says he always thought Nanami would be the type to survive one way or another. And I really wish he did. Ijichi apologizes thinking Gojo was thinking why is Nanami dead when this dude is still breathing. But Gojo just says, how low is your opinion of me? He says to Ijichi that he still has a monumental task to perform, so he should make sure to give it his all. And lastly, we're left with a cliffhanger when we're told Ino has something to say about Nanami. And then we switch scenes, but I love to see Nanami still getting love. Honestly, he was one of my favorite characters, and I really want to know what this is going to end up being. Then we jump to Gojo versus Sukuna's reincarnated body being set up as a betting game, which is hilarious. Let's place our own bets in the comments right now. Type in either Sukuna or Gojo for who you think is going to win. I'll let you know what I'm thinking about all this at the end of the video. But then we have Itadori warming up and training. So this chapter is a sort of breather setting the stage for the main battles that are about to take place while Gojo is fighting Sukuna. Then we jump to another hype character, special grade Yuta Okotsu, and the always eloquent Toge Inumaki. They both make it clear that Itadori is innocent and Sukuna is solely to blame for the bad stuff that happened. It's fun watching Yuta actually know everything Toge is saying, because I definitely wouldn't. These guys will obviously play roles in the final battle, as Yuta mentions, he'll be putting Toge to work. We now jump to December 24th, the most romantic holiday in Japan as mentioned last chapter, the perfect time for the Gojo vs Sukuna fight. Kenjaku makes his plan and intentions clear. While Sukuna is busy fighting Gojo, he'll hunt down the remaining players in the culling game. He makes it clear that he couldn't leave Sukuna's side before because Gojo would have killed him. Either way though, he had no intention of acting until today because, and you gotta love his strategizing, he says if Gojo loses, the only opening they have to beat Sukuna is right after that battle. So the heavy hitters, led by Yuta, can't afford to leave the battlefield. Now this makes perfect sense, but is also useful for the plot because it will give other characters time to shine as well. Kenjaku says as a result, he's free to move as he pleases. So obviously sleeping on everyone else who is not Gojo, Yuta, Maki, and Kinji Hakari. We then jump to these three plus Panda. They're wondering what to say to Gojo. They say do your best and make sure to come back alive doesn't feel right. They viewed winning as a given up until now, while another says can't really work up the feeling to be worried or cheer him on. And Toge chimes in with kelp, which is another great point. It's a cool moment to get in a manga because usually you just get the corny words and not the thought process behind them and characters doubting what to say. Yuta says he thinks Gojo will be happy regardless, while Maki looks pissed, saying if he replies with something like that's a given, she feels like she'd beat him to death before he faces Sukuna. They're really not only hyping up the fight, but what Gojo will be like and say leading up to it. And luckily, it's not a cliffhanger, we will get to see that this chapter. As Gojo's shown, he looks serious, like he's not as calm and laid back as usual. For once, he actually seems worried. Itadori, of course, is like, screw the overthinking, he just shows his hand and says, Gojo's curse technique is in the way of his sensei. And this immediately gets Gojo to lighten up and laugh, saying give it your best shot, pointing to his back. It's great to see Itadori and Gojo smiling as he encouragingly hits his sensei's back with an open palm. Now the characters are all in a better mood. Itadori has completely lifted the tension, and that does seem to be some shonen protagonist energy right there, like Goku and Luffy. Then all the characters give Gojo a pat on the back as they send him off into battle. The hardest battle of his life so far. Everyone has their own words of encouragement. Go get him, stupid blindfold. Prove to us that you're more than just a pretty face. My personal favorite, salmon. I bet you can't guess who said that. And then there's also, if it gets too rough, I'll tag you out, and also win, Gojo-san. Gojo smiles and even appears to be blushing a bit as he says roger that. Nice and simple, but notably he doesn't say it's a given. As Maki mentioned, he's not being his usual overconfident self. We then see Sukuna's determined face and he looks terrifying and not to mention confident. The narrator tells us that the battle between the strongest is about to begin, the hype is real, and like I said, place your bets in the comments if you haven't already. Even Gojo seems to know though that this won't be a walk in the park, and honestly, it would be a bit anticlimactic if Gojo just saves the day and crushes Sukuna without Itadori needing to step up, or even help. Either way, don't underestimate full power Sukuna is all I'm gonna say, despite how awesome Gojo is. And if you love strong characters like Gojo, then you won't want to miss our all special grade sorcerers and their powers explained video, link on screen right now and in the description. See you there.